set up the recording. You guys know how to record these videos?
Yeah, I think I'm recording it, right? Yeah.
Are you? Yeah? Good. Okay, so if you're recording it, can you do me a favor and send it to the guys, send it to all of us after.
All right, sure.
That would be cool. And my assistant will make sure to connect all of you guys by email so that you guys can stay in touch as well. In the future, you never know. I don't know if you guys know each other well or if you'll get to know each other. So today is going to be very informal. Maybe you've worked with mentors in the past. I am not like that. I am different. So for the next 90 minutes or so, which is what I allocated to this, we're going to try to allow me to speak, but I also want to hear maybe advice that you would have for each other. So let's try this. What am I hearing myself? Do you guys hear the echo twice?
Yeah, I do hear the echo.
This is strange. Can you guys all mute yourselves for a second?
Sorry?
Mute. Everybody mute.
Oh.
Hello? Yes? Oh, there you go. So now that you've all muted yourselves, somehow I don't hear myself double. So what we're going to do one at a time, we're going to get you guys to start by stating a specific position that you're in right now and see if you're comfortable with asking for advice. See if you're comfortable not to ask for a solution, but to ask for advice on anything you want. And the next hour and a half, I'm going to do two things. One, I'll do my best to be the great mentor for you. Number two, I have 3 different courses online about mentorship. So I teach for a living about mentorship. I teach people how to build a relationship with mentors, how to find mentors, how to become a mentor. So I will also give you some advice on how to be a good mentee for the future, so that when you work with future mentors, what's the best way for you to get the most out of it, and what's the best way for you to build a relationship with maybe a millionaire or a billionaire. 3 of my mentors are multi-billionaires, and for me, I'm with them as a connection, not because I want their money, because I want their mindset. I want their company. I want to be near them. One of them invited me to his birthday last week. And that was really cool to be at a billionaire's birthday because I met some really important people. So let's start. If you're interested in starting, just, unmute yourself and, tell us a little bit more about where you are right now, status update. And then you could share, maybe you have a question or you want me to give comments on something specific. Who wants to start?
I think I can start first.
Fabulous. Go ahead, Felix.
Hi. So currently, because we are as I shared before, we are a very early stage startup in Singapore. Because we have not received any funding, and we are sort of bootstrapping our way to building our first prototype. And I think in that sense, I think one of the key challenges that I face with my team is how do we balance, going for growth and at the same time also manage our finances. I think that's one question that I have. Another one would be because we are coming up with a software to measure soft skills competencies, and this is something that there is not really. From what I understand, there is not really any similar product out there, and in that sense, how do we navigate ourselves in this blue ocean to sort of be able to capture the market well? I think that is the 2 questions that I have, and I would love to hear some advice from you and from the rest of you as well.
Wonderful, very good, Felix. So I would say one of them is cash flow, and the other one is maybe, can we call it, differentiating points? That'd be a good way of how do you make yourself different? How do you make yourself stand out? Would that be right to say?
Yeah, yeah, correct.
Okay, so let's talk about the first one first, cash flow. Cash flow is an awesome problem. It's an awesome problem, and I'll tell you why, because it's going to come up again and again and again, both in business and in life. And I could tell you that being 40 years old, every once in a while, I still have cash flow problems. But my cash flow problems now are like, oh shit, we need an extra $500,000 in 1 month. Do we either get sales? Do we get a loan? Do we get investments? Or do we cut costs? You know, so it's fun problems to have in business. And it teaches us discipline. So a couple of things that you could do, Felix, to consider when it comes to cash flow management in the business. First of all, always look ahead. Always say, if I have zero money coming in for the next 3 months, do I have enough money to survive? You know, so like how many people do you have in your team, Felix, that you're actually paying a salary to?
Currently 0. Yeah, so it's all voluntary. Yeah.
So Felix is in an amazing position where he's got 0 expenses on human resources. However, this is something that scares me a lot when I've started businesses, because volunteers are not necessarily committed to the business.
Correct.
They might be if they have shares, or if they're like someone who's very much interested in being a partner in the business. A volunteer is someone that might say, I'll get it done by Monday, but actually on Friday, it's still not done. So remember for the future, working with volunteers, especially if one day you're looking to raise money, investors would love to hear that, well, currently these people are working on share options, but as soon as we raise investments, we'd like to give them a small salary so that they will stay committed to us and they would stay focused on us. They wouldn't look for a job elsewhere. You know, so this is just something you can keep in mind in the future, that you might need some of these people to jump in, which is why you'll need investments, so you'll need funding. Cash flow, where are you spending your money? Or where do you see yourself? Where are your expenses today? Tell us a little bit more about where you spend money and where you make money.
All right. Mostly like because like our cost will be from software development, mainly like the hosting services and purchasing of like database storages and things like that to host our web application. That would be the main bulk of the cost. And like currently we are not revenue generating at the moment. We have sort of have 3 confirmed pilot that we are running with schools. But those are free pilots for us to sort of test our product and validate our ideas. But we are looking towards more of a subscription-based, like a SaaS software, a software as a service, to sell to schools. And yeah, but we haven't really validated that business model yet. So in terms of, I guess in terms of revenue, currently we are still, we haven't really have a revenue stream. And our costs will mainly come from the development costs and also like the hosting of all our information, all of our application online. Yeah.
Okay, understood. So 2 things are very important here. When you are building a business, in most cases there are costs. Whether you're buying lunch for everybody every day, whether you need a little bit of marketing, even sometimes just taking the bus or the underground every single day to go and see clients, that costs money. So it needs to go into some sort of a budget. Who's currently financing these initial costs of the programmers and the servers?
We did win some cash prize from hackathon, so we are using those to finance the team. And like if it is a bit more of what we can't afford, I usually take my own money. I came out from my own pocket. Okay,
understood. So you are currently the main investor in the business. Are you the only shareholder in the business?
Yeah, at the moment I am.
Okay, so if you own 100%, it's completely okay that you are the only investor in the business. And make sure to keep track of it. Do you currently run some sort of a finance somewhere, like on Excel or on some sort of a software? You're actually accounting for every single dollar that you spend and where it goes.
Yeah, I do have like a it's like a Excel sheet that I keep of all the expense of what we are spending.
Okay, and is this Excel sheet something that you created, or did you download some sort of a template from the web?
It's something I created. Like it's a very simple one. It's just mostly documenting what we spent. Yeah. So
Okay,
I'm
so
not
what I
sure
would
if that's
suggest,
yeah. Mhm.
when it comes to documentation, don't reinvent the wheel. Yeah, unless you have a
Mhm.
finance background, don't go online and download simple cash flow report for a startup. That's it. Download something that exists already because it's gonna make you think differently in the way you report on this after. Because it's not just about throwing it all into Excel, but it's actually having specific dates and categories and also who specifically this money went to. So all of these things are very important because in a proper cash flow report, you said you've won some money. So winning money is income. That's okay. I like that. You can win the lottery. That's winning money. Or you can win a grant, or you can win a prize. So this is very important to also on this Excel sheet that you show exactly on what date did how much money come in and where did it come from. And then you have all this minus money going out. So that if you're doing this properly, you can also forecast if you have zero money coming in, based on the current money you have in the bank, basically the prize money and maybe what you agree to invest, how much longer can the company survive without having extra money come in? So this is a very important task to do. This is for all of you, of course. So when I speak to one of you, I'm speaking to all of you. So all of you should be writing notes right now. Whatever position business you're in right now, cash flow management is one of the most important things a CEO should do. And I'm assuming all of you are either CEOs or senior partners in the business. So there's really two things that you always have to manage. One is cash flow. Do I have money to run the business? Number two, it's people report. Who am I working with? Who's working with me? Who's really dedicated? Who maybe I should consider to give share options to? So when we raise money, they will have some shares in the company. Who's maybe an awesome, positive person, but actually never really does their work? And who's maybe an amazing person who does the work, but they're very negative and they don't work well with people. So I'm constantly doing analysis of people around me just to ask myself, is this someone I could see myself working with for the next 10 years? You know, it's very interesting. Is this someone I could see myself? Is this someone that everyone in the team likes? And this is just a regular practice to always be developing yourself as a leader in the team. So back to the cash flow. If you don't have any income stream right now, which is a challenge, but it's understandable in the beginning of a startup, and you don't currently have any investors coming in, is there anything else that you could do, Felix, to attract more money? Can you win more prizes? Can you get a grant from someone else? Or are you interested in raising money from friends and family?
At the moment, I'm currently applying for the NUS Innovation and Enterprise Grant of $10,000. And then after that, I'm also intending to apply for the Singapore Startup Founders Grant, which is another 30,000. Yeah, but that would give me a good runway of about, say, a year to sort of scale up our operations. I think the current sort of challenges that we face is that we need to get approval from NUS to give us the $10,000 grant. And along the way, we are also going for hackathons to sort of try to win some cash prizes to sort of boost our income. And hopefully, if by early next year, we can somehow find product market fit, then we will most likely consider going to raise our pre-seed round, hopefully somewhere in first half of next year.
Okay, awesome. I like that. So it sounds like you have a very good roadmap ahead of you. One of the challenges I would suggest you explore, Felix, is to see if you have an optimistic roadmap and a pessimistic roadmap. What you have just said to me sounds to me like a pessimistic roadmap, because taking a year to prove a model is maybe a little bit longer unless you're working with like robotics, nanotechnology, biotechnology, unless you're working with things that need like certifications, FDA approval, government approvals. You don't need so long to prove a business model. Now, again, I've set up 27 companies in my life, from restaurants and juice bars to e-commerce and mobile apps. And now I own 3 software companies and a little bit more in the non-IT world, in the education world, in the HR world, in the events world. So I know that because this maybe is an early stage for you, you're thinking 1 year, but maybe put together 2 timetables. And that could be fun because maybe you'll end up speaking to like a future mentor, a future random person who might end up being an investor. And you tell them, well, actually, this is the pessimistic model because we don't have investments and we're trying to be a lean startup. But maybe you will say, well, if we did have the strategic investor come in with $100,000, actually, we would be able to do it instead of 9 months, we'll be able to do it in 2 months. So people really love hearing that from the CEO because it shows that the CEO is ready. So something that you consider is to create another plan just in case you're in the right group of people and you're talking and you're like, wow, this guy seems like he could be my mentor, maybe an investor. You want to show them that you're ready. You want to show them that you have an optimistic side to you because investors love optimistic CEOs who have a pessimistic plan as well, just in case, things are slow. With regard to the hackathons, continue doing them, definitely. I'm assuming you guys know about them and there's tons of them in Singapore. With regard to the grants, I know for a fact that there's dozens and dozens of different grants for entrepreneurs in Singapore. So consider not only the grants from the government to the school, consider also the governments from some of the accelerators and incubators in Singapore. There is many of them, and it's easy to get to do the research, and it's easy to show up at their open events. So many of these accelerators and incubators, they have all these open events happening all the time, and you can find these open events on like meetup.com. You can find it on Eventbrite. They have these events. You guys know about these websites, meetup.com and eventbrite.com?
Yeah.
Good. So, good. So, make sure that you show up at some of these other people's events because you'll end up maybe, meeting up with an accelerator that says, wow, actually, we've been looking for something like this. Why don't you join our accelerator and we can give you a free office space and free server space, so you suddenly have no cost, and even we'll give you a small funding every couple of months to make sure that you have time to hire people and to do a little bit of market research. So, push yourself out of the belief that you need to be a fully lean startup. You can still be a lean startup by not paying super high salaries and by not spending, I remember one of the startups I was working with about a month ago in Singapore. They just raised some money. They raised like $300,000. And the first thing they did is like get themselves a beautiful big office in one of the high-rise buildings. They hired very expensive staff. And within 1 month, they almost killed all the money they had, which is crazy. So I think the idea of a lean startup is not really just building a business with no money, but it's almost like, can I build a business with the least amount of money possible? And I'll give you an example. One of the businesses I have, in September of last year, they had 26 employees. And they were doing about, I think, like $300,000 a month in sales. And at one stage, I felt that there was something didn't feel right. Like maybe the team was too big. Something was not right. And I did a little HR test with the team to see if we really needed everyone. And the most incredible thing happened. Within 3 months, that team was cut from like 20 plus people to 8 people. And these 8 people are still delivering the exact same results. So I'm running a lean company, in my opinion, right now, because I don't need so many people. But don't confuse lean startup with, bootstrapping. Bootstrapping is like working out of your parents' garage and eating your mom's food every single day, basically feeding all of your mom basically feeding your employees. Everyone's sleeping on the floor at one point because you're working all night long for hackathons. That's bootstrapping. I've done that twice, and it was fun. But there's a very big difference between that and lean startup. So lean startup, just really monitoring what you're spending money on and asking yourself always, can I have this for cheaper? Can I have this for free? So like the servers and things like that, you could have for free, just as an example.
Mm.
Did that kind of give you an okay answer on the cash flow side of things, or do any of you have any follow-up questions on cash flow?
Yeah, I think
Sorry, go ahead.
I think I got a good view of like I think the advice you gave me. I think it really helped to put in perspective some of the challenges that I face. And yeah, I think I really did only prepare like a pessimistic roadmap. So yeah, so I think that would be some like planning an alternative would be something that I'll be doing right after this. Yeah. So someone else can perhaps go ahead with the question.
Yeah, I just wanted to add, I guess, my own perspective on something that was mentioned as well. So I think Gil was talking a bit about how, in terms of, I guess, employee or like member engagement, how it's important to see like if it's possible to give them some form of remuneration in order to keep them engaged. And I just wanted to offer like a different perspective as well, that there's also this risk or danger in, I guess I've observed from some of my own entrepreneur kind of endeavors, where sometimes actually attaching a small amount of like remuneration in the form of like a small amount of money to people that I'm working with or people that are working for me it has the risk of I guess changing their intrinsic motivation, which stems from, I guess, their passion for whatever product or service or thing that we're building together, into a kind of extrinsic motivation where they're focusing on, this is the amount I'm getting back for the work that I'm putting. And obviously, if the amount is like going to be little because like, you're at an early stage or you're running a very small operation, then by shifting their focus to that extrinsic kind of motivation, it might actually turn them away from the work, and they might start to lose this initial like passion or intrinsic motivation they had as well. So I just thought that was something that I've also learned, and it might be like helpful to keep in mind. And obviously, like the other point like Gil was mentioning about looking at like who are the members that are really like dedicated to your work, and who you might want to bring on a more engaged more engaged kind of basis in return for shares like for your company of your company. Like that might be a, I guess, better angle to look at as well in terms of thinking about retaining and increasing people's engagement. Yeah, just my 2 cents.
Awesome. Thank you, Gerald. Mark, do you want to add anything to this, or do you have any further questions connected to that?
Yeah, maybe for the part where Gerald mentioned about the external factors, right? I guess it really depends on whether the people that we're talking about is like the founding team, or whether you're just intending for them to be like a early employee kind of thing. Because I guess you can always offer like stock options in the early stage to keep them motivated, especially when I guess it's still not revenue generating at the moment, right? I mean, if you are like the founding team, I guess there is some basic understanding that maybe for at least the first year or so, they will not be compensated like financial wise, I guess. But I do not have much experience in this, so this is my 2 cents. Yeah.
Awesome. Do any of you have any questions connected to what was just discussed, kind of as a follow-up, connected to the cash flow side before I make additional comments?
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, I'm good as well.
Yeah, me too.
So let me just make a comment here, a sidetrack comment on what Gerald said, which is really interesting. And Gerald, thank you for bringing that up. It's very powerful what you actually brought up. So I was faced with that actually challenge a couple of years ago, where I was trying to be a nice kind of CEO in one of the companies that I had. It was a mobile app company that we ended up exiting and doing very well on. But early on, I was thinking, well, I can give people some shares but you know, it's not really worth anything now because there's no company yet. Like it was just a really beginning of the startup. I said, well, guys, you know what? I'll actually give you some of my money. I'll pay you guys a little bit of money just to give you a little bit of basically money for food and money for rent. And what Gerald just said is so powerful because they thought, well, what the fuck? I can actually get a job out there that would pay me 5 times more. So I'm actually undervalued. And it was really, really, you know, breaking point moment of my, you know, my position, because I was never faced with that. And that was in a completely different culture. It was in Russia at the time. And so if you are going to be paying anyone anything, tell them this: I'm not paying you a salary. I'm not paying you a compensation for your work because I cannot afford you right now. But what I am doing is, one, I'm showing you that I appreciate you so much that when we do have investments, I will want to hire you for the salary that you deserve. However, because I want you to come maybe once a week or twice a week with meetings with me so we can all sit in a coffee shop together, because I want you to, you know, be able to have the right software and the right laptop, because I want you to do that, that maybe, or I want you to eat, you know, healthy food so you're not eating junk food every day so you could stay healthy so we could build a powerful startup. You could think of, I'll be giving you guys a little bit of money from what we have raised. So you're basically saying it's not a compensation, it's not a salary, but just a way for me to show you thank you for you guys, you know, believing in this dream that we are co-creating. So it's really, really cool where people want to be like, if you're the dreamer, if you're the entrepreneur, some people are not necessarily dreamers. So in this case, you know, Felix, you can like just be appreciating them either with money or with other things. So you could, for example, take them out for a movie. You can take them out for lunch one day to celebrate. You could take them out for a party on a Friday and say, guys, I just really wanted to thank you. Let me take you out for a nice kind of a cool dinner. And I don't know, let's go do something fun after. You can reward them and compensate them in different ways. What's important to do in this case is to constantly be talking to these people to make sure that you're constantly asking them, are you enjoying what you're doing with our company? And are you still focused on this? Because what you don't want to do is suddenly you're in a very important position of the company, and you're like about to launch something, or about to upgrade something, and suddenly one of the employees says, well, actually I found a job, so I can't finish it. And that has happened to me, and that might happen to you guys as well in the future. So I'm sorry in advance. So this is why it's good to constantly be talking to your team about the cash flow situation. So they might be expecting money, but they need to understand that, guys, you know, this is the steps. And one of the most powerful ways of doing that, I find, is every single week or 2 weeks, not once every 3 months, remind everybody of the short-term and the long-term plan. Always remind the whole team. And even if it's just for 10 minutes, guys, listen, I just want to remind you for the next 3 months, this is our key milestones. This is what we're trying to achieve. And I'm really excited that over the next 3 years, this is our goals. This is one of the most powerful activities you could do as a CEO, to constantly remind everyone, this is what we're aiming to do short-term to make sure everyone's aligned. And this is our long-term goals. This will make you a very, very powerful executive in your team. Okay, so if any of you have any comments of that, we can do. I'm happy to listen, or questions about that, specifically what I just said. If not, we can move out to Felix's second question about standing out. Any questions or comments? I'll take that as a no. Oh, Mark, yeah?
Sorry, yeah. Maybe just a follow-up, like a sidetrack. Just wondering, say, if you do not have, like if you have an idea, right, but you're not able to offer them anything financially, so how do you actually bring people on board to I mean, like, to sell them the dream and to work with them to create something together? If
awesome, yeah,
I mean,
yeah, that's a really, really good question, Mark. And
yeah,
that is also, Mark, it's not actually a sidetrack, because actually you're going deeper into the issue of cash flow. It's a very, very powerful question, because I remember my first few startups, I had no money. I just left my job because I was just tired of my job, and I was like, that's it. I'm no more. I just want to start my company, and I really had no money. But what I did have, I had energy. And you might be hearing it today. And if you Google my name, you'll see a lot of videos on YouTube, and you'll feel my energy. Now, can I just confirm, are all of you the founders or the co-founders of these businesses? I'll take that as a yes, yes, and yes.
Oh, I'm not
Okay.
currently working on my own business.
What are you working on? You're working in someone else's business?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So you're an employee, or you're just kind of a volunteer?
I'm working full-time. I'm starting a full-time position soon.
Okay. All right. So some of what we're saying might not be relevant right now to you. So when we come to you, you can ask questions that could be more relevant to you, but it might be relevant in the future, because you might want to have a side business. Since the age of 18, I've always had jobs. So from 18 until 30, I had jobs, but I always had at least 1+ startups. Yeah, always. I had jobs because my family are very, very old school, traditional, and they always said, get a job, get a job, get a job, get a job. So I got jobs not because I loved the company, because I really loved my boss and I loved the products. That was my criteria. Find a really, really cool boss to learn from, and find a really cool product to be involved in. And I moved around so much, guys. I was in so many different industries. If you check out my LinkedIn account, you're be like, what the fuck has this guy been? He's been all over the place. But it's helped me understand a lot about a lot. So coming back to the question, that, if you have no money, how do you keep people motivated? So what I did is I sold people on a dream. People like dreams. We're humans. So if you have a cool concept, the most important thing with a cool concept is to build the dream connected to it. Short-term dream is 3 to 6 months. Long-term dream is 3 years, 10 years, 20 years. Short-term dream is details. Like, we want to do this, we want to test that, we want to achieve that. Very, very, very specific, like an engineer. Long-term dreams and goals are more broader. They don't have to be exactly, because no one knows where you're going to be in 3 years. You might be, I don't know, anything can change. But at this early stage, when you're working with early stage employees or early stage partners, it's okay to dream completely. Keeping in mind, which is normal, dreams change. That's it. It's completely okay that when you build a business, that there's a pivot in a business. There's an alteration, there's a small change. I have pivoted every single one of my businesses multiple times. And when I changed it, I told the team, guys, I'm excited that I have met with this and this mentor. And based on some feedback and research and analytics that we have, we decided to make a pivot in the business. So we are making an adjustment in our plans. And people are like, wow, this is exciting. We've learned something new. We're making a change. People actually are afraid of change. But if there is a leader who is speaking about the change in confidence, it's okay. And as a leader in a company, sometimes you need to fake it until you make it. So even if you are not 100% confident, if you have a gut feeling, this intuition, you need to go for it. You need to make sure your team feels that you're confident. Because the worst thing you can have is a leader in a team who's not confident in his own decisions. Not all of your decisions are going to be right. It's okay. I know that in Asia, losing face is not a good thing. And it's the same thing in many other cultures. But guys, I'm telling you right now, fuck that mindset. I'm telling you right now, guys, every successful entrepreneur anywhere around the world, including Asia, will tell you that the only reason they became successful is because they lost face many times along the way, but they kept on getting up and doing it again. Yeah, again and again and again. Every entrepreneur. I don't know one entrepreneur, and I know many, who's ever succeeded without losing face and fucking up along the way. Here's my position. So I hope, Mark, it gave you a little bit of a sense of building a future for people and telling them that there is something great here and inspiring them with an idea. This is the easiest way to get people to commit time. It could be just 2 hours a day. Maybe it's not full time, but It could be a pre-agreed on time and then pre-agreed on expectations from each other.
Yep. Thank you. Thank you for the
cool. Of course. Yeah. Of course. Okay. So let me move out to standing out. Standing out in general, and I'll spend just a little bit of time on that because I think it's very relevant to everyone, and then we'll jump onto something that is maybe very different that you guys want to ask about. Standing out in business in an early stage is just not easy, but it's actually not necessary. The reason it's not necessary is because you think about if you right now walk into an event. Let's just say there's some random event happening at the university and there's hundreds of people all around you. You don't really need to stand out unless you want to take everyone's attention. What you need to do is choose, who do I want to talk to, really? So decide on your target audience and go be near them. Proximity, be near them. And when you are near them, you need to know how to get their attention. That's it. Getting their attention is starting a conversation. Getting their attention is asking a question. Getting their attention is doing research about them and agreeing in advance that you want to talk to them. So I really believe that in your current early stage of the business, Felix, it's not about standing out. It's about identifying who do we really want to work with that could relate to us, and then doing the research. For example, last year, Richard Branson came to Russia. And I happened to be at that event as well because I really wanted to meet him. But everybody wanted to meet him. There was like 30,000 people at the event. But I'm Gil Petersil. I don't want to stand out of 30,000 people. I aim to stand out of 10 people. That's the idea. The 10 most important people in the event. How do I join those 10 people? So of course, I networked my way into like one of the backstage rooms because I knew someone that was organizing the event. And there was like 30 people in that room all trying to talk to Richard Branson. And I just stood in the back and listened carefully, waiting for my window of opportunity, realizing that no one in that room did their research on what is important for Richard Branson to speak about right now. They're all asking him, like they were all using him as a mentor, treating him as a god. Richard is just a man. He goes kite surfing every single day. The guy's a cool dude. I did my research and I knew that he had a pain. And he had two things that he really wanted to do in Russia. One of them was launch his new Virgin phone. And the other one was actually bring Virgin Airline to fly between Moscow and London. Cool. I did my research and I waited until this moment of silence. And I kind of I just kind of raised my voice to overpower anyone that was trying to speak a little bit, and kind of stood up on my tippy toes and said, Richard, I'm curious, when are we going to finally see Virgin Airline in Moscow? Because I'm constantly flying to London and I fly with friends and clients, and I'd love to see your airline because we love it so much. Suddenly, I personalized it. Suddenly, I spoke about something that Richard really wanted to talk about. I raised my voice a little bit so if people moved out of the way, if you know what I mean. People wanted Richard to see me. So suddenly, I was 1.5 meters away from Richard Branson, and everyone else moved to the side. So it turned out, instead of just me getting a selfie with Richard, I ended up having a 15-minute conversation with him and have an audience of 30 people just listening to me doing my thing, because I wasn't trying to treat him as a god. I was just to see if I can help him somehow. So it's like, Richard, how can we here in the Moscow community help you to achieve your goals? So I took it to a whole different level. So imagine, Felix, if you're in a position where you have some clients that you really want to get to, and you set up an authentic meeting with them, and you set up a meeting with a school and say, listen, we're not yet a perfect company. We're constantly adapting. We want feedback. We want to work with your school. What do you need? What are some of your challenges and pains that are somehow connected to what we are doing that you want us to resolve? Because we want to help you do this, and we want to test this out in your school. And, our business model currently says that schools will be paying us, let's just say, $20,000 a year, but we decided to pick 5 first schools to give it to them for free and use them as cases, use them as the leaders in the market, not the guinea pigs. Be careful. So you don't want to make a school feel like you're going to test it out on them and potentially fuck things up. You're saying, we're going to use you as leaders. You're going to be the the ones that are showing all the other schools how it could really be done. So instead of standing out, turn it around. You do your research, you make someone feel special by identifying this target audience. Comments, questions about that? Go ahead, guys.
I have a question. Yep. So I was just wondering, like as students ourselves, if we were to attend this networking events with all the working professionals, and I guess we don't really have much things to bring to the table, like being students ourselves, like we do not have much connections or couldn't really help them in any way. So besides steering the conversation to something that they are passionate and interested in, is there any other way that we could actually like maybe get them to become our mentor or get them to connect with us in any other way? Because I feel that if we're just as a student ourselves, I guess the limelight isn't really on us, and they would
I'm with you, Mark.
Really
100%. Yeah. So right. Mark is speaking about a pain that a lot of students in the world have. Yeah, I'm working with students all over the world. You know, I'm a visiting professor at multiple universities around the world, and I'm constantly getting this question. So, Mark, what you're asking is, is really from the heart, because in many cases, I meet students who don't believe they have enough value to add to someone high level. The easiest thing you can remember is that everyone has levels. I was with a startup, a CEO of a startup in Singapore about 10 days ago, right before I left. And he raised about $20 million a few months ago. And he's quite smart and very successful. And he asked me the exact same question, Mark, because he ended up going to an event that I invited him to, where the average person in the room was like in the hundreds of millions of dollars kind of startups. And he was like, he said the exact same thing as what Mark just did. He's like, well, no, I'm only a small startup. You know, we've only just raised 20 million. Like, we're very much early stage. The idea here, guys, is to understand that you always have value to offer. Let me give you a crazy example. I believe in building relationships with people who are successful, not just because of money, because they figured something out. They figured a way to bring value to people and earn from it. So there's one gentleman in Moscow that I really liked for many years. His name is Igor. And Igor is one of the richest people in this country. You know, his name is Igor Rybakov. And very wealthy billionaire in this country. And we've met each other informally just once. And that meeting was really special because he's like, wow, Gil, I like your energy. Let's talk again. And this was like a year and a half ago. For maybe 3 to 6 months, my assistant was following with his assistant, never really managed to meet him for different reasons. Finally, they said, yes, we can meet up for 20 minutes in Igor's office. I said, okay, you know what? 20 minutes is 20 minutes. It's interesting. I've waited so long. 20 minutes is 20 minutes. That 20 minutes turned into an hour and a half, and he didn't want to stop talking. At one stage, I said, listen, Igor, I love talking to you, but I need to go. Like, who ends a conversation with a billionaire? It's crazy. Only me. My assistant looked at me and like, Gil, are you crazy? Like, he wants to talk to you, talk to him. I was like, no, it's okay. I know I can add value to him, and I know he can add value a lot to me. The most interesting thing that I only realized about a year and a half later, because now I'm speaking to him minimum twice a week on WhatsApp. He really enjoyed speaking to me about business ideas in English, specifically. He liked my creativity. He liked my ideas because I was much younger than him, much less experienced than him, but he actually really enjoyed speaking to me in English. And that was amazing. Until he said that to me, I never realized that. I thought maybe he wanted business ideas, but it's like, no, Gil, I want to speak to you about business ideas specifically in English. So now he leaves me cute little voice messages about business ideas and asking me what I think in English specifically, because English is not his first language. So Mark, in many cases, if you're dealing with someone that you potentially see as a role model, as a mentor, it's not about adding value to them as in, I can connect you with someone, I can give you advice. Asking someone a question like, how do you see the future of nanotechnology? Or how do you see the future of AI affect this specific industry? So something that is relevant to them. I'm just giving a random example. I don't know who this person is, but if you're asking someone like that about their views, how they see the future, or what sort of challenges do you foresee school, like if it's relevant to Felix, for example, so he's working a lot with schools. What challenges do you foresee schools having in the future that potentially our company can adapt and resolve? So you're asking someone a very powerful question. You're allowing them to speak, which is good. You could just listen. You're showing them that you're listening. So make sure you fucking listen. The worst thing is to have someone ask you a good question and them looking at a cute girl that's walking by. Yeah, you better listen 100%. And even cooler is to say, wow, this is really interesting. Do you mind if you actually disturb the person and say, this is really, really interesting. Do you mind if I take out my phone and write some notes down? Because I want to refer back to it when I follow up with you by email. So you're creating an opportunity for them to see, wow, this person really values me. So you're making them feel special, which is good. You're making them feel that they can help you, which most human beings, and I mean like really, really most, really want to help other human beings. And if this is a successful person, they don't need money from you. They don't need something in return. So it's something you can consider. Asking a good question is sometimes enough. And if you go on Google and type top 10 questions to ask investors or top 10 questions to ask high profile people, you'll be able to get those questions and just write those questions into your phone and practice them every single day if you can. I've done this, by the way. And even you can have things like top 10 questions to ask a woman, Google will really help you with these things. So, Mark, asking people a good question and listening, and at the end saying, wow, John, this was really helpful to me. I have a lot to think about and digest. Is there any chance that maybe I can take you out for a quick cup of coffee or even lunch any day in the next 2 weeks? Because I'm about to launch a company, and just 15, 20 minutes of talking to you can make a massive difference in how we can change the way schools operate in Singapore. So if you listen to what I just said carefully, and this is recorded, guys, so feel free to listen to the recording as well. I broke it down. I said thank you to them. I said that I want to take them out for coffee or lunch. So I'm giving them options. I'm telling them that just 15 to 20 minutes, I'm already pre-framing, telling them in advance that I don't need a lot of their time. And then I'm telling them that based on their advice, together, so with them, I'm making them feel included, we can make a massive difference in Singapore. In 99.9% of the cases, people will say, yes, of course, I'm happy to go out for coffee with you. Please follow up with me. And when you follow up with them, don't give up if they don't answer one time. If I would have given up, I followed up with Richard Branson after that meeting. And for about 2 months, no one responded to me. And it was really cool because I don't give up. I don't send an email and say, hey, Richard, why are you not answering me? Because we were communicating with his assistant at the time. And then his assistant at one point answered and said, I'm sorry, I'm Jennifer. I'm the new assistant of Richard. He's just gone through a little transition in his assistant team, and we missed a few emails. Richard really apologizes. He looks forward to connecting with you again. Let me know how I can help you set up the next call with him. So if I would have gotten upset or disappointed, and I wouldn't have followed up, they would have just forgot the email and lost it because they were going through a transition, they were busy, they were doing other things. So if someone doesn't respond to you, it doesn't mean it's a no. It just means not now, or we're not sure, or we don't have time for this. It just means that they missed it. That's it. So just keep that in mind when you're trying to build those relationships and adding value to people. Was that useful, guys?
Yep.
Yeah, that's very useful.
Yep. Thank you.
Yes, definitely very, very useful.
Good. Okay, who's next? Gerald, Mark, who wants to give me something to work with, something to help you with?
If it's okay, I could go next.
Yeah, please.
Yeah, go
Okay, so yeah, I guess my situation is a bit different. So a recent big decision I had to make was where I wanted to go for my first job after graduating, and it was like a very tough decision between two very different roles. Like one was in a small early stage tech startup, and another is at IMH, which is the position I ended up going for. And I think for me, my longer term goal is to either start something or be in an early stage startup or organization or project dealing with environmentalism and climate change. And because I currently don't see any organizations that are, in my view, like doing effective things with regard to that, and also because I myself don't really have a good idea on like what kind of product or service or initiative would be effective. Like I don't have a very clear idea, so I feel like that's something that I need to be more sure of before I jump into something more related to that. So I think right now, I guess like the question that I have would be, how do I maximize my time, I guess over the next year or 2 years, in terms of building up my network, acquiring relevant skills in order to best set me up to get to where I want to be. Yeah.
Cool. Thank you, Gerald. So I'm going to have to break down that answer in a few ways. Number one, you need to be 100% happy with the decision you make, because joining a larger organization would give you completely different skills than joining a small startup. The skills would be discipline and structure and culture of a company. And using that company, you could potentially move around the organization. So don't be stuck in one position for too long. 6 months to a year max in a position. Move around the organization constantly. The easiest way to move around is to be an overachiever and to network well within the organization with other departments. So constantly try to be that guy that says hello to people in different departments and show curiosity. Hey, what are you guys working on right now? Hey, what's your department working on right now? Hey, what's the most exciting project you guys are focused on right now? You're constantly showing curiosity within the organization so you become important. And I did that actually when I was, how old was I? I was 20, I was 22, 21. Nope, 22. So at 22, I was living in London, in England. And I just recently moved from Canada to England. And I moved it with a very, very small company that headhunted me from Canada into England to be the head of operations of a company that I don't know anything about. It was in ATMs, cash machines. I don't know anything about this industry, but they liked my operation mindset. They liked that I was honest and I was strong leader. And they're like, come in and help us. We have some problems. I came in. Within about 12 months, we ended up selling the company to a much, much, much bigger company. And a part of the sale was I was the only employee that the new company wanted. Okay, so they took me with them. It was interesting. And they ended up becoming the #1 ATM company in the world about 12 months after I joined. Now, what was interesting, 14 months after I joined, I left the company. But to just give you an understanding of why, when I joined the company, I was the new guy. But I was the new guy that came from a very small company, so which means I knew a lot more about flexibility and innovation, and like I had a lot of ideas how to make the business better because we were a small company. This company was more than 100 times bigger than us, so they were very inflexible and very tough to maneuver, and change takes too long. So I was networking within the organization. And within about 3 months of me joining, the CEO of the company, it's a massive company with like 30,000 employees, and I was a young manager, started calling me into his office at least once a week saying, Gil, I have a question for you. We're doing this and this and this. Tell me what you think. And I was like, well, Ashley, I don't know anything about that department because, I'm not involved with them, but I can tell you that based on my past experience and what I know from the guys that I've spoken to, this is what I think. And he kept on saying, Gil, but how do you know this? Like, He's like, because I spoke to John and I spoke to Michael and they told me what they're working on and I like thinking about it. So he ended up taking me on different meetings with him. And I was a young manager, guys. I was nowhere near the senior executive team, but I wanted to add value. And I remember that day that I wanted to leave because, again, when I joined 12 months later, they did some more acquisitions. They bought more and more companies, and they became the largest company in the world in cash machines and ATMs. And they came to me and they asked me to fire a lot of people, about 200 people, because we were buying another company and we had to fire. And I was like, no, I'm not. Sorry, I'm not. It's not in my energy. It's not my style. Like, no, I've trained these. I'm not interested. They said, can you try? I said, okay, no problem. I'll try. Like, I've never fired so many people in my life. I was too young. Like, what the fuck? Like 22 years old at the time. I don't want to fire 200 people because my whole life combined, maybe I fired like 3, 4 until then. Since then, it's been a few more. And I actually motivated 5 people to quit. Motivated them. Because it's just the job was not right for them. And then that same day I came back to my boss's office and I said, listen, I'm not interested in firing these people because I don't think it's right. I built a team. It's not for me. And he said, okay, so what do you want to do? I said, well, today's my last day. And he's like, what do you mean? He's like, well, if you need me to fire people because of money, then if I quit, you can actually keep like 10 of them. So keep 10 of them and fire me instead. And that was a very, very powerful day in my life because the CEO, about an hour later, called me to his office and said, Gil, I've never seen anyone make such a decision in their lives. Can I ask you to stay for a few more days with us just to kind of help us with handover and all that? I said, sure, Ashley, I'll stay as long as you want, but I'm not firing anyone. And at the end of the meeting, he said to me, if ever you open up a company and you want a good CEO to come in, please hire me. This is a CEO of one of the biggest, now it is still the biggest company in the world in ATM, telling me, a 22-year-old, to hire him one day. So Mark, your position is very, I think it was Gerald. Sorry, Gerald asked. So your position is quite special because you're now joining a company and you can make a difference. Whether you think it or not, you can learn skills, learn communication skills, learn networking skills, learn creative skills, learn discipline, learn culture of company. And while you're doing that, on the side, be interested in startups in the same industry. So if you're, for example, let's just say randomly you're in the in automotive industry. So constantly you should be reading and being interested in what innovation is happening in that industry outside of the company. This is the best way for you to add value. This is the best way for you to maybe end up joining a little startup on the side while you have a job. This is just how I think. And the best skills, again, are communication skills and relationship management skills.
Yeah, thanks so much for sharing that experience. I wanted to follow up on the point about networking within a large organization. I was wondering if you had any like specific, more like micro, like detailed kind of strategies to go about doing that. And I guess it's quite contextual across different companies, but maybe you had some general advice regarding that.
So it's completely contextual because not just the organization. So I don't know how much research you guys have done on me, but currently I'm one of the top authorities in the world in speaking about business networking and communication management. I have books about it, and I travel around the world speaking in front of governments, corporations, and universities about relationship management, communication skills, networking, masterminding, collective genius, all of that together. So I could speak to you for hours and hours and hours about networking, but I like doing it very contextually. So very, very, very specific scenario based, because I'll give you exactly what you need. I don't want to be too generalistic. Well, what I would suggest you do, because we're going to have another session with you guys. I don't know when, but my assistant will follow up with you guys and we'll have another session. I'll try to do it as, whenever you guys are ready. Maybe it's, you guys will tell me how often you've done this before, how often you want to do it, and we could jump on another call. And you guys, for the next call, you can prepare your questions in advance and even send them to me in advance. So I'll make sure to prepare. What you can also do is just go on YouTube and type Gil Petersil. and you can listen to a lot of hours of talks about networking specifically. And there's a lot of life hacks and things like that in it. And I'll even, as a bonus for you guys, I'll ask my assistant to send you guys or if I forget, you guys will have to remind me or remind her, please, just in case, because I'm running into another meeting right after this. I have a really cool course called Networking at Events. And it's really, really powerful because it gives you the before the event, at the event, and after the event. And this is very much connected to networking at the office. Because networking at the office is almost the same thing, is going to an event every single day, but with the same people. That's it. You're trying to, something needs to get done. Something is moving forward. People have their own lives. People have their own issues. People have their own stories. So that would potentially help you quite a bit. And if now or in the future you have a very specific question with a scenario, I can give you a lot of insights on that.
Okay, yeah, sure. Sounds good. I was asking because, yeah, awesome. I noticed you have a lot of networking content and experience that's out there. But maybe next time I can ask you more detailed things. Maybe you can leave some time for Mark since, it's already 6:10. Of course.
Yeah. Mark, go ahead.
Okay, just one final question. I was just wondering, because you speak about starting startups as well as working at corporations and learning, I don't know, some skills from them. I was wondering, because I'm in my final year, so eventually I'll have to decide whether I want to continue pursuing my own startup, or whether I should take on a full-time career. What do you suggest, as students, or rather as fresh graduates that we do? Should we gain some experience first in the corporate world before venturing out, or should we just dive into and just do a startup on our own? Do you?
So it's a really it's a very deep question, Mark. So far today, Mark, you get very high marks on the deepest questions that a mentee has ever asked me. Each one of your questions has been very, very powerful. So thank you for that, Mark. All of you have had good questions, but Mark, wow. So a couple of things. First of all, Mark, you are you, I am me. You got to do you, I got to do me. I'm very different to you guys. I teach at universities around the world. I teach MBA classes, EMBA classes. Guys, I have never been to university. Get that, okay? So I failed out of 2 high schools, managed to somehow graduate in the 3rd one because I cheated a lot, and I sat next to this really sexy girl that told me all the answers. So I'm not the guy you should be asking that question. However, because I've worked with a lot of people like you before, and I can put myself in your shoes very easily, I would say that, Mark. Jumping into setting up your own startup is not always the right thing, because there is not enough experience to help you how to fuck things up. So I'm a huge believer that right after studying, it's great to either jump into someone else's startup and learn as much as you can as quickly as possible. And maybe it's going to fuck up, or maybe it's going to be a success, and great, why not? Because you're still young and it's only 2-3 years of your life in that company. That's it. You're not committing for the next 20 years. And the other one, if you do jump into a corporation, then every 18 to 24 months, you have to either make a massive change, so completely change departments, or change companies. You have to, because the world is changing too quickly, and companies, big corporations, they want to model you. They want to put you in a box, and they hope that you will work in that box for the rest of your life. Don't do that. Yeah, don't follow, because this is, if you look at the history and how your parents have been in a society where getting a job and getting insurance and buying a house and staying with the same thing for 20 or 30 or 40 years is good. In your generation, it's fucking bad. Don't do that. You got to make changes every 2-3 years. And I understood that a long time ago, which is how I picked up so many skills. So you might start a company and it might work, it might not, but realistically, in most cases that I have seen, people's first companies don't usually work as well as they wanted to. And then what happens, they either make a small change or they make a massive iteration in the business. And maybe they change a business model and they change a few of the staff members, and boom, then they have a massive success. And the reason I'm saying the 18 to 24 months, because you're too young to decide that this company is right for you for the rest of your life. And in most big corporations, unless you are actively learning on your own, so you're actively like going to courses, like I go to like 10 different training seminars every year. Like I do things with Tony Robbins and Jay Abraham and Brian Tracy, like the greatest speakers in the world. And I work very closely with someone like, I don't know if you guys know, an entrepreneur called Gary V and Grant Cardone. So I do things with them regularly. I just met up with both of them like a couple of weeks ago, 2-3 weeks ago. They were in Singapore. So I met up with them. And, you know, with Tony Robbins, I'm meeting up with Tony Robbins in 2 weeks. I do a lot of business with him personally. So, you know, being able to constantly learn yourself. So you're constantly developing, you're constantly not just reading books, but you're going to training seminars, you're like watching different inspirational, like motivational videos. You're trying to pick up new skills. So basically you're learning 10 times faster than the company you're working for is teaching you. Because remember, most corporations don't want to teach you too fast because they don't want you to grow too fast. They want you to grow slowly, 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 slowly. So they are keeping you in a box. I'm not saying something bad about a corporation because this is how they can succeed. This is their business model. But you guys are young geniuses. You are the future of the world. You need to remember that you need to grow at your own pace. And if you think right now you're growing fast enough, remember you're not. You can grow 10 times faster. So easiest thing you could do is to identify 2 or 3 people online who are growing 10 times faster and model them. Don't copy them, model them. Try to do what they do. Follow their habits, follow their rituals, morning habits, evening rituals, things like that. So Mark, you got to make your own decision, but whatever decision you make, love it. It's like awesome decision. Let's do it for a year. Let's do it for a couple of years. And then I can always make a change.
Right. Okay. Thank you for that advice.
Of course. Any other questions, Mark?
Not from me, but if the other two want to ask. Yeah.
Okay. Guys, any other questions? We have based on my time, we have 15 minutes left.
I think I want to have. I think I want to have the last question, if I may. I just want to ask, like, because like right now I'm like sort of starting my own thing, and how do I know like when is the right time to pull the plug? You know, like I think that is always like I think one of the biggest dilemma that any entrepreneur face. Like because like we are building something that we call like our own baby, but like that we can't be too ambitious and idealistic such that we hold on to it even though it is something that is not going to work. So maybe in your own experience, how do you actually deal with such a situation?
That's a really, really good question, Felix. You know, and multiple times in my life, I remember having a company. It's like a baby, and you don't want to let it die. So you're like, no, you keep on trying, but you'll learn with life that failure is okay, and it's a part of success. There's no one that has ever truly achieved great success without failing a lot along the way. And one of my most popular classes at universities is actually called successful failures. You know, how do you fail but still see the success, not really seeing it as, oh my God, losing face, I'm embarrassed. Fuck that. Don't be embarrassed if you're choosing to pull the plug on something. There is no perfect formula. It's almost like quitting a job. When is the right time to quit a job? If you don't like your boss, you quit the job. If you don't have a good relation with your boss, you quit the job. Of course, you try to talk to them before. Of course, you try to work on it. But if it's just not there, it's not there. The same thing with a company. If something is not working, you pivot. If something is not working, you make a small iteration. You adjust the business model. You adjust your management skills. You adjust some of the team members. You make small adjustments, small. At one stage, if it's not picking up, you just need to pull the plug and say, you know what, we're going to put this in the garage. I need a couple of weeks to not do this. I need to go for a walk. I need to maybe want to go traveling. I want to go meditate in Bali. I want to try something new. For example, you know, I've had recently a company that it's a software company and it's all about online personal development. And it's already in our 3rd iteration. So for the last 3 years, we've been trying to scale this business big. And it's made money. No, it's made maybe, I don't know, like $300,000 in total. But it has a very, very small team. And it's brought back most of the investments we've made. So like, we're okay with it, but I'm not happy with it. And just recently, I told the guys, listen, guys, I don't want to pull the plug, but it's just not working out. I'm not the CEO, guys. So at this stage of my life, I own multiple companies, and I'm the president of the group of companies. So I've moved away from CEO position right now. And maybe I'll take on another CEO position in the future. But at this stage, I like hiring CEOs. And what was interesting is I said to them, listen, guys, it's just the business model is not there. I want to put it in the garage. So over the past month and a half, we've been slowly letting everybody go in a peaceful, nice manner, slowly cutting, being ready to put it in the garage. Suddenly, 72 hours ago, a massive opportunity came up using the exact same software that we have, but in a very new business model that would make me 100 times more money than I've made combined here. And this is a really important position for me to be in, because this is the position where if I play my cards right, I can have than I had before, and I can make the money back, and I would have the success that I was looking for in this company. So sometimes pulling the plug is not what you want to call it, because pulling the plug is actually killing something. I think sometimes you could say, I want to put it in the garage, because you can always use what you have built as building blocks. Another example, a few years ago, I had a recruitment company, HR company. Like, I think it was like 6 years ago. It only worked for 1 year. It was really cool. But in that 1 year, we collected a huge database of a lot of HR directors and HR consultants and stuff. And then we just put that company in the garage, but we kept all the data we have. 3 years ago, I set up a different kind of company, which is a speakers agency, basically selling speakers and trainers to different corporations. What did I do in the first week? Once I found the right business development person, I said, listen, I'm going to give you a gift. I'm going to give you a database of tons of HR directors and tons of HR consultants, but this list is 6 years old. So you need to come up with a way to call them and say, hey, you might not be in the same job. You might not even be the right person, but I just know they wrote a really cool script. So basically to use very old data, but was relevant. So he said, listen, 6 years ago, you had a relationship with my colleague from this company. My colleague mentioned that you might be interested in this and this and this because we have this new joint venture together. So he connected the dots. So this is something that, closing a business is never easy, because it's like, letting your baby go. It's something that's difficult to tell you because there is no formula of how to do it. But I could tell you that if you have a feeling of giving up, don't give up. But if you believe that you've tried 3 to 5 different models and it still hasn't worked, don't fight it. Don't fight it, because maybe it's not meant to be. And work with 3-4 mentors at a time and allow people to help you make a decision once you give them context. What worked, what didn't. That make sense?
Yes, definitely. Yeah, I think it really, I think it helps put into perspective, because right now we are in our first iteration. So I think there are still a lot of rooms for us to try different strategies. And and I guess when we sort of have some results from our pilot testing and things like that, it will give us much clearer direction of how we should maybe pivot the business or, do some minor adjustment here and there to make it work. Yeah, so I really appreciate the advice. Yeah, really, thank you so much.
Good. Guys, anything else you want to ask? We still have a few more minutes, or are we good for today?
Okay, yeah, thanks everyone for the great questions.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
Good advice.
So guys, a couple of things that I would want to do. So you've all been in touch with Eugenia, my assistant. So I'd like to do 2 things. Number one, and this is something I do with a lot of my mentees. It really, really is powerful, I promise you. Within the next few hours, if possible, take your phone and you can do a 2-3 minute video, just a selfie. It's not going to go anywhere, don't worry. Just between us. What you liked and what could be improved and what you took away out of today's session. What you liked, what could be improved, and what you took away out of today's session. And if you need any help from Evgenia, if you need any material from me, if you want specific videos, if you want that course about networking at events, you can ask Evgenia if all this. She'll ask for my permission, and I'll authorize this being given to you. And my last question to you guys, when do you want to talk again?
I'm sorry, I'm not sure if you have your assistant's contact, because I think NUS was the one who brought me into this conversation.
Really? Okay, so this is important facts. What I'm going to do is in the chat right now, I'm putting an email address because I'm going to tell NUS that I need to talk to you guys directly.
Okay.
So in the chat, you guys have my email address, just gp@gilpetersil.com. If you send me an email there, my assistant will see it. And what I'd like to do is, usually when I mentor people, I try to kind of allow them to have it for as long as they wish. So at least once a month, maybe sometimes even more. And if you guys want, I'm going to have some events, some networking events in August. So if you guys are still in touch and you do these video feedbacks and you're staying in touch, I'll invite you to these networking events and I'll be able to show you practical advice right away on the spot.
Sounds good.
Good stuff, guys.
Yeah,
So,
cool.
If you have any other questions in the meantime, until the next time we talk, if you have any other questions, feel free to send these questions to my assistant and she'll get those to me. And what we can even potentially do, I'll need to speak to NUS to see if they're okay with it. We can even create a small WhatsApp chat with all of you guys. So if you ever ask me a question, I can even leave you a small little voice message so all of you can get the answer.
Yeah, sounds great. Thanks for offering your time.
Of course, guys. I like doing that. I like making a difference. You know, if I don't help people like yourselves, then the universe is not going to give me the help I need from my mentors. I think it's important and something that you guys can actually take seriously and consider over the next few months. Can you somehow mentor someone else? Maybe someone who's just starting in university. You know, consider that. That's a really, really powerful activity to do, to mentor someone else in any level of society. Good stuff, guys. Thanks again for today. Good luck, and I hope to see your video today.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
guys. Take care. Bye-bye.
See you, everyone.
Thank you. See you.